showing you the weirdest versions of everyday average cars. As you know, I specialize in everyday average cars, and it's always fun when they have weird additions that I get to, talk about and whine about. So, this is a Chevrolet Cruz, and this is a Chevrolet Cruz. What's the difference? Chevrolet Cruz, Cruz. This is the Chevrolet Cruz diesel. Now, when I first learned about this thing, it was interesting because, first of all, the Chevrolet Cruz alone isn't all that bad of a car if you ignore the engine and transmission. The interior, it leaves a lot to be desired, but it's not awful. The entire car is tolerable. It's not terrible, right? It's an okay, mediocre car, right? Pretty standard. You're not going to find anything special, anything notable about this car. It's just a standard everyday car, and I love those types of cars. But unfortunately, the engine and transmission that GM put in it is so unreliable, they break all the time, and I would never buy one because of that reason. But the clean diesel version has a different engine that is supposedly one of the most reliable GM engines of all time. And that sounds great. A reliable Chevrolet Cruz. As you know, I love everyday vehicles. I think GM styling, it's not that bad. I actually think it's quite interesting. Their audio and stereo and sound systems tend to be pretty good. There are things that I like about GM, but the unreliability has always scared me away from those vehicles. Buying them, driving them, looking at them, learning about them, right? Because if I know all this information and then, I wouldn't recommend it to anybody, it's useless, right? But this car is interesting. I've got a listing here, a very interesting one for a 2014 diesel automatic for $6,000. I would think that this would be a great car, if you just need a small sedan. The Chevrolet Cruz is kind of bittersweet, right? On its own, it's not a bad car, but it replaced, like the Impala, a lot of really good other cars that were just better than this car. It's not that this car is bad, it's just that they were better, and this was a kind of sloppy replacement. The interior is rather cheap, and I wouldn't say there's anything ultimately remarkable about it, but the clean diesel gives you way better gas mileage, way better efficiency, and I think that this would overall just be a better car to drive than the regular Chevrolet Cruz. If I had to buy a General Motors vehicle, this seems like the most reliable one that's been made in the past 10 years. Overall, I think it's a very nice, very decent vehicle. If this is your first car, great. I think that it's weird that GM would go so far as to make a diesel version of the Chevrolet Cruz. I'm guessing GM likes to do this a lot, right? They enter markets that they know aren't going to be profitable just to gloat on other car companies. This came out around Dieselgate with Volkswagen, so I'm guessing they just did this to clown on Volkswagen just because of that entire debacle. So, the next car, we're going to be moving on here. Again, this car, I'm going to rate it, 8 out of 10. Pretty solid. I like the diesel. Diesel makes it better than stock, and the fact that it's more reliable is better. Front-wheel drive sounds nice. Automatic transmission, not a CVT. Great, and I like the Coca Light interior. Just nice. Coca? Sounds weird. Coca. Coco? The Coco interior. Yeah, Coco. I'm dumb. Anyway, the next car, this is a Volkswagen Jetta. And this is a Volkswagen Jetta. Which one of these black Jettas with the exact same everything except the wheels is different? This is a Jetta Wolfsburg edition. Now, Volkswagen is very weird in that it has a lot of additions and weird things to it. But the Jetta Wolfsburg edition, to sum it up, is essentially, on the lower trim levels, it gives you more luxurious features. That's weird, right? Like, why wouldn't you just... I don't see why that would be needed. You know what I mean? Like, if you want a nicer car, get a nicer trim level. The Wolfsburg edition ended up costing about the same as the nicer trim levels, but it's still a lower trim level car. Just the Wolfsburg, it's not kicking here, not really making sense. It's an interesting concept, I think, and I think it looks pretty cool. I mean, it doesn't change the exterior all that much. I believe it just gives you some nicer interior technology, and that's pretty much it. It doesn't even give you fog lights. But yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a bad trim level per se. I just don't think it is interesting. And it's fun that they would go to that. Like, now I know it's kind of historical, Wolfsburg, of course, Germany, But at the same time, I think that's just fun to think about how they still have that, trim level, and I can't imagine it's that great. Now, I can see it from a, rental car perspective where they want to get the base trim level. They see that price, and then they get the add-on, they always do that, car companies. You buy like an XLE or something, and then you can get the XLE Plus package because they know that you want the cheaper car, and then you can pay to add the features on. I think that's what the Wolfsburg was designed to do. Take people that thought that they couldn't afford those features on the nicer car, give them some of them, and make it a package instead of a trim level, even though this is technically a trim level. I've got a Wolfsburg Jetta here. This is an automatic, 90,000 miles, 2007, for $6,000. It's just kind of interesting, I mean, it's not bad. It's just interesting. I've never really seen a lot of Volkswagens when I was growing up. It's just kind of an interesting concept to see, and we can see this is a Wolfsburg edition. Doesn't look all that fancy. I don't really know all that it gives you. If you know, please let me know in the comments. I'm not extremely familiar with Volkswagen as a whole. I only started researching them like a couple months ago when I thought it could be better. Maybe, I'm guessing it's the leather. That's what I'm personally guessing, because this seems like a very cheap car to have very nice leather like that in it. Come on, show us. Oh, they don't show us the Wolfsburg badge. Anyway, the Wolfsburg badge, it's right there. It's really, really cool. Here, let's see if I can find the badge. Badge, come on, badge. Doesn't look like we can find it. Anyway, it's a really cool trim level and a cool idea, like splitting the trim levels up into a package. But they're not rare, they're everywhere, but at the same, it's just, yeah, not bad. It's just interesting. So, this is a 2000 Subaru Outback. This is a 2000 Subaru Outback. This is a 2000 Subaru Outback, and this is a 2000 Subaru Outback. You may have noticed that one is green with tan cladding, and the other one is green with tan cladding. I wonder what the difference is here. Is it the fog lights? Is the mesh on the other one a little less dense? Is that it? This is the LL Bean edition. If you don't know, this is the strangest crossover. I could have never seen this happening. Since 2000, there have been Subaru Outbacks branded as an LL Bean edition, and they made them up until like 2009. That's crazy. LL Bean, if you don't know, it's kind of like Bass Pro Shops, except it's way more expensive. I know, it's hard to believe. And it's just interesting that a retail store like LL Bean would kind of sponsor this car. It's very interesting to think about. It's not a bad car. There's nothing wrong with it. The trim level doesn't make it worse. It's just very interesting to think how LL Bean would intentionally put their logo on it. By the way, this was still when Outback had the fun letters on it, like the steakhouse, trying to make you think it's Australian. I mean, it's kind of interesting, the LL Bean edition. I don't hate it. It's just kind of weird. I would have never thought that this would be that great. This is the nicest version. If you can't tell, LL Bean is a nice retail store. This is obviously the most luxurious edition. Well, one of the most luxurious editions. I'm guessing what LL Bean got out of it was, the people who bought at, LL Bean could have this, and then they could, match. They have hats and t-shirts and whatever. And for Subaru, it made their car kind of more exclusive, gave it a luxury trim level, and put them up there with, like, the Lexuses, at least competing with them in that price range. So this is a 2006 LL Bean edition. Doesn't look all that special, and I don't see yep, you can see it right back there. The LL Bean Outbacks are very, very interesting. A lot of people on the forums talk about it. I can already see tan leather. I'm guessing this was the highest trim level. That wood, that leather, the everything, the screen, it just makes me think very much yes. I mean, Subaru. They're not ones for investing deeply in technology because they're a smaller car company, right? So having a screen in 2006 is interesting. Same with the heated seats. That's not something we usually see with Subaru. So it's just kind of fun to see here. This is all-wheel drive, of course. A Colorado, a flat 6 gas engine, which is pretty interesting. So it's not like it has a V8 or anything. For $7,000, that's pretty expensive. It's not bad, but hey, interesting. Anyway, the next one is arguably the most useless. This is by far probably the one that gives you the least, and it's on a car that doesn't need it at all. This is the Toyota Prius, and this is the Toyota Prius. What's the difference? I know you guys are probably reading the things over here. What's the difference? The rims. This is the Toyota Prius Persona series. Now, Toyota was trying to get people more enthused and hopped out, and excited about the Prius. So the Persona was essentially, car Cruz, fancy, was essentially a sport-like trim level. You got black leather, which wasn't in the normal model, and you got these stained, sporty-looking rims. Out of all the cars that could have received a Persona series, Why the Prius? I get it. A lot of people hate on the Prius, blah blah blah. I love it. I love it because it's practical. I love it because I pay less for gas. My 11 gas tank gets more. I drive more miles with that than the 18-gallon gas tank in the Camry, right? But at the exact same time, I can recognize that the Prius 100% does not need a sporty trim level. I found one, they're very rare, but not really. They're like, you would think they're more rare than they are. These just like rental fleets, that's where they got them. So this is a 2013 Toyota Prius Persona series for $8,000. I mean, the purple's cool. I like the purple. We can, of course, see the Persona series. It has its own badge, which is interesting. We can see that patented black leather interior. I mean, that's not bad. This wasn't the top trim level or anything. Again, you don't have the heads-up display, and you have the standard screen. Not the radio, but the standard screen. So I believe this is the equivalent to like a trim level 3 in the Toyota Prius. Or at least that's what I believe, because I've driven a 3, and it has all these features. But leather, they're like picking and choosing what features they want to take over. Very, very interesting. It's front-wheel drive, 4-cylinder hybrid, of course. Why are they showing a picture of a convertible when it's a hatchback? Anyway, yeah, I don't really get why Toyota would put a sporty trim of the Prius. I don't see the function in that. Maybe I'm just like a hater or something, and I don't see the way. But I just, for some reason, it's not computing the sport trim. The last car on here is my personal favorite. GMC. Out of all the car companies that you would think would have a weird trim level, GMC's not high in the list. First of all, it being a GM car company at all. The main company, which is Chevrolet, doesn't have that many special trim levels, right? GMC, which they only made up so that, Chevrolet dealers had something to sell in truck-wise, so that Buick and Cadillac dealerships had something to sell in form of trucks, this imagined brand. This, GMC is very new. A lot of people like to think that it's super ancient. The name existed, but they weren't making cars until like 2005, 2019, 90 something. Anyway, the GMC Yukon, any GM vehicle as a whole is very unlikely to have a special car, brand thing. Volkswagen, Toyota, all the foreign car companies are more likely to do that. And out of all the American car companies, GM is the least I would expect to do a special trim level. And GMC would be the last brand I would suspect they would do it for. And I would expect them to not put any effort into it. Slap a badge on there and say it's the thing. And it's not the Denali, because the one you're looking at is a Denali, right? The hybrid. I don't know in what world this makes sense. First of all, it wasn't lazy. They actually came up with an entire hybrid drivetrain for this model, just specifically for this trim level. Why? That feels like a lot of work for GM. And it's not like they had any competition. What, the Highlander? You're telling me the Denali is going to compete with the Highlander? No. Strange amount of effort here. I feel very strange. This is a 2008 hybrid. And remember, this is 2008. GM wasn't even... they weren't even touching EVs, hybrids by 2012. This is very interesting. And on a gigantic vehicle, too. This is a hybrid 2-mode, which is interesting. I've heard they suck, and they're terrible. Which I'm sure that's true for most GM vehicles. Especially the hybrid, though, since this is like the first generation. All of this is just so strange. You've got the hybrid thing, tachometer, it's just heated seats for some reason, and then you've got just the weirdest interior I've ever seen, really. Just very weird, like a strange vibe in here, Of course, you've got, like, your GMC looking back, your third row, of course, it's a vehicle like this. It's not a bad car, it's just strange. You wouldn't, out of all the cars you would expect to have a hybrid version, this isn't one of them. And really quickly, there's something I saw in that knob. That looks very strange. I'm not going to get into that, but I'm just letting you know that looks very strange. So, that's pretty much it. That's all I have for you today. Pack up shop. We've got just a little rundown. We've got the Chevrolet Cruz diesel. We've got the Volkswagen Jetta Wolfsburg edition. The LL Bean Outback. The Prius Persona. And the hybrid GMC Yukon. So with that, thank you for watching. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and I will see you guys very soon.